The roads are closed until tomorrow. Yeah! Let's get stupid!
Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about growing pains. Fact 15. Jeremy Miller received stalker letters from an older man at age 14. While Jeremy Miller was experiencing the excitement and opportunities that came with being a young star on one of America's most popular family sitcoms, he was also dealing with a frightening situation behind the scenes that highlighted the darker side of childhood fame and the dangers that can come with being in the public eye at such a vulnerable age. When Miller was approximately 14 years old during the run of Growing Pains, which would have been around 1990 or 1991 based on his birth year of 1976, he began receiving numerous letters from an older male stalker who had apparently become fixated on the young actor after watching him play Ben Seaver on television every week. The situation was serious enough that it has been documented in Miller's biographical information and discussed in interviews over the years, though understandably he has not gone into extensive detail about the specific contents of these letters or how long the stalking behavior continued. What we do know is that this was not just a case of an overly enthusiastic fan sending a few harmless messages, but rather a pattern of disturbing communications that came from someone who was significantly older than Miller and whose intentions were clearly inappropriate, given the age difference and the nature of their contact. This experience represents one of the unfortunate realities that many child actors face when they become recognizable television personalities, as their fame can attract unwanted attention from individuals who develop unhealthy obsessions with them based solely on the characters they play on screen. The fact that Miller had to deal with this kind of threatening situation while also trying to navigate the normal challenges of being a teenager and maintaining his performance on a demanding television production schedule adds a sobering element to what might otherwise seem like a glamorous childhood career. Fact 14. Kirk Cameron filmed a McDonald's commercial with Tracy Gold years before the show. Long before Kirk Cameron and Tracy Gold became famous as the sibling duo Mike and Carol Seaver on Growing Pains, the two young actors had already worked together in a completely unrelated project that happened to cast them in the exact same kind of relationship they would later portray on television. In his 2008 autobiography, Cameron revealed a surprising piece of trivia that even longtime fans of the show probably never knew about, which was that he and Gold had filmed a McDonald's commercial together sometime around 1982, which would have been approximately 3 years before Growing Pains premiered on ABC in September of 1985. What makes this early collaboration so remarkable is that the McDonald's commercial also featured Cameron and Gold playing a brother and sister pair, meaning they had already established that specific dynamic in their work together before anyone involved with Growing Pains ever thought to cast them as television siblings. At the time they shot the McDonald's commercial, both actors were still children working their way through the competitive world of commercial auditions and small acting jobs, trying to build their resumes and get noticed by casting directors who might give them bigger opportunities down the line. Neither of them could have possibly known that a few years later they would be cast in a major network sitcom and would spend 7 seasons from 1985 to 1992 playing almost the exact same relationship they had, portrayed in that fast food advertisement. The fact that they had already worked together as fictional brother and sister before Growing Pains began makes their eventual casting seem almost like destiny, as if the universe was preparing them for the roles that would define both of their careers and make them household names throughout the 1980s. Fact 13. The pilot for Hangin' with Mr. Cooper was filmed on the Growing Pains set.
Oh, Coop, you gotta try out one of these little club covers here. You know what I'm saying? I'll be getting bored. Maybe just chilling with me. You know,
When Growing Pains ended its 7-season run in April of 1992, the physical set that had served as the Seaver family home for all those years didn't go to waste, because ABC decided to recycle it for a brand new sitcom that was launching just a few months later in September of that same year. The new show was called Hangin' with Mr. Cooper and starred comedian Mark Curry as a former NBA player turned substitute teacher who shares a house with his friends. And rather than building an entirely new living room and kitchen set from scratch, the production team simply reused the existing Growing Pains set with some minor modifications to make it look like a different home. What made this set recycling even more interesting was that the producers of Hangin' with Mr. Cooper decided to acknowledge this reuse in a clever and humorous way by having Alan Thicke appear as himself in the pilot episode's opening scene. In this cameo, which appeared in the pre-credits teaser before the show's main story began, Thicke walks onto the set as his real-life self and encounters Mark Curry sitting on the couch, leading to a brief conversation between the two men where they joke about the fact that this used to be the Seaver family's house, and now it belongs to Curry's character instead. During this scene, Thicke even removes the Seaver family portrait from the wall as a symbolic gesture of passing the torch to the new show, making it clear to viewers that they were watching the same physical space that had been home to the Growing Pains family for so many years, just with new furniture and a completely different group of characters living there now. Fact 12. Joanna Kerns accidentally kissed Alan Thicke on the nose. During their audition, when casting directors were searching for the perfect actors to play married couple Maggie and Jason Seaver in late 1984, they brought in Joanna Kerns and Alan Thicke to audition together to see if they had the right chemistry to carry a family sitcom for what they hoped would be multiple seasons. Kerns had just come off the cancellation of a show called The Four Seasons and was looking for her next opportunity, while Thicke was trying to recover from the failure of his syndicated late-night talk show called Thick of the Night. So both actors were eager to land roles that could revitalize their television careers. During their chemistry read together, something unexpected and somewhat embarrassing happened that turned out to be the exact moment that sealed the deal for both of them and convinced the producers that they had found their perfect on-screen husband and wife. Kerns has mentioned in numerous interviews over the years that during the audition process, she accidentally kissed Alan Thicke on his nose instead of wherever she was supposed to aim for during the scene they were performing, which created an awkward but genuinely funny moment that made both actors laugh and broke any tension that might have existed between two strangers meeting for the first time. Rather than being put off by the mistake, the producers and casting directors saw this accidental kiss as proof that Kerns and Thicke had an instant natural chemistry and comfort level with each other that would translate well to playing a believable married couple on television. The two actors were offered the roles of Maggie and Jason Seaver shortly after that audition, and they went on to become close friends in real life throughout the show's 7-season run, bonding over the fact that they were both recently divorced single parents dealing with similar life circumstances. Fact 11. The show spawned a spin-off about a gym teacher with 10 kids.
Thank you. Who are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm Julie Costello. Dr. Seaver hired me to help out with the baby and everything.
Oh, he didn't mention anything to me on the phone.
One of the more unusual aspects of Growing Pains' success was that it managed to spawn a spin-off series based on a character who had only appeared in approximately 5 episodes as a minor recurring role before getting his own show. Coach Graham Lubbock, played by actor Bill Kirchenbauer, was the gym teacher at Dewey High School where Mike and Carol Seaver attended classes, and he had shown up occasionally throughout seasons 2 and 3 to provide comic relief and interact with the Seaver kids in various school-related storylines. Despite his limited screen time on Growing Pains, the character apparently resonated enough with audiences and network executives that they decided to build an entire spin-off series around him and his large Catholic family. The spin-off, titled Just the 10 of Us, premiered in the spring of 1988 with a special 2-part episode that aired on Growing Pains itself, which served as a backdoor pilot to introduce viewers to Coach Lubbock's home life and set up the premise for his new show. In this storyline, Coach Lubbock loses his teaching job at Dewey High School due to budget cutbacks, which prompts Mike Seaver to lead a protest on his behalf after learning that the coach is struggling to support his wife, 8 children, and another baby on the way. Although the protest fails to save his job, Coach Lubbock receives an offer to teach at an all-boys Catholic school in Eureka, California, and the family moves west to start their new life, which became the setting for the spin-off series. Surprisingly, just the 10 of us managed to run for 3 full seasons from 1988 to 1990, proving that the character had enough appeal to sustain his own show despite his minimal presence on the original series. Fact 10. The theme song had 9 different versions over 7 seasons. The opening theme song for Growing Pains, titled As Long as We Got Each Other, went through an unusually high number of variations during the show's 7-season run from 1985 to 1992, with producers constantly experimenting with different vocal arrangements and performers to keep the opening credits fresh and interesting for viewers. The song itself was written by composer Steve Dorff, with lyrics by John Bettis, who was also known for writing hits for artists like The Carpenters and Michael Jackson. And over the course of the series, a total of 9 different versions of this theme song were used at various points, making it one of the most frequently changed opening themes in television history. The first season featured country and pop singer B.J. Thomas, who was famous for his hit song Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, performing the theme entirely by himself as a solo track. Starting in Season 2, the show added Jennifer Warnes, who was well known for her duets like Up Where We Belong with Joe Cocker, to sing alongside Thomas in a duet version that would be used for Seasons 2, 3, 5, and part of Season 7. Season 4 brought in the legendary British soul singer Dusty Springfield to replace Warnes as Thomas's duet partner for that year. And this version was even released as a full-length single in 1988 that received radio airplay and peaked at number 7 on the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart. Season 6 switched things up entirely by using an a cappella version sung by a group of studio singers instead of the familiar Thomas vocals, though this experimental arrangement was eventually abandoned and the show returned to the Thomas and Warnes duet for most of Season 7. Additionally, the show created special one-time versions for specific episodes, including a Halloween-themed variation used in a 2-part Halloween episode in 1990. Fact 9. The original creator was fired midway through Season 1. Despite creating the entire concept for Growing Pains and getting the show off the ground, when it premiered in September of 1985, Neil Marlins found himself in an incredibly awkward position just a few months into the show's first season when he and most of the original writing and producing staff were suddenly let go from the series they had worked so hard to develop. Marlins had developed Growing Pains alongside executive producer Mike Sullivan, writing the pilot and establishing the core concept of a psychiatrist father who moves his practice into the family home so he can take care of the kids while his journalist wife returns to work. But creative differences or network dissatisfaction with the show's early direction led to a major shakeup before the first season could even finish airing. What made this situation even more dramatic was that Marlins' wife, Carol Black, who had been working on the show as well, was also let go during this mass firing, despite the fact that she had quickly risen through the ranks from story editor all the way up to co-executive producer during just the first half of the season, showing how rapidly things had been moving before everything fell apart. The network brought in 2 new showrunners to replace Marlins and take over the creative direction of Growing Pains, choosing Steve Marshall and Dan Gunselman, who were a writing team that had previously met and formed their partnership while working together on the classic sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati. These 2 men would go on to guide Growing Pains through most of its successful run, shaping the show into the version that audiences remember today, even though they had nothing to do with creating it in the first place and only came on board after the original creator had been fired. Fact 8. The show was massively popular in China.
No, see, I just don't date guys who aren't allowed to have girls in their rooms.
I have a reputation.
Despite limited access, one of the most surprising aspects of Growing Pains' cultural impact came from halfway around the world in China, where the show developed an enormous and passionate following that nobody involved with the production could have anticipated when it first aired in the United States. Jeremy Miller, who played the youngest Seaver brother Ben throughout the show's 7-season run, revealed in a 2006 interview with Larry King that Growing Pains had achieved a level of popularity in China that far exceeded anything the show experienced in America or anywhere else in the world. The reason for this unexpected phenomenon had to do with China's strict controls on foreign media during the 1980s, which meant that Chinese audiences had extremely limited access to American television programming and could only watch whatever shows the government approved for broadcast. According to Miller, Growing Pains was one of only 2 American television shows that were allowed to air in China during that entire decade, which meant that Chinese viewers who wanted to watch American entertainment had almost no other options available to them besides this family sitcom about the Seavers living on Long Island. Because of this unique situation, the show developed what Miller described as a large and devoted following in China, with viewers absolutely adoring the program and making it a cultural touchstone in a way that would have been impossible if they had access to the full range of American television that audiences in other countries could watch. Miller explained that he personally has a very large following in China that is bigger than he ever could have expected anywhere else. And he even traveled to Shanghai years later to film a movie called Milk and Fashion, where he got to experience firsthand just how much Chinese fans still remembered and loved the show decades after it originally aired. Fact 7. Alan Thicke's Reel. Thicke's son Robin appeared as multiple characters throughout the series. While Alan Thicke was busy playing the television Father Jason Seaver on Growing Pains, he occasionally brought his real-life son Robin Thicke onto the set to appear in various episodes throughout the show's run, giving the young boy some early acting experience that would eventually lead to his successful career as an R&B singer and songwriter. Robin Thicke, who would later become famous for hit songs like Blurred Lines and Lost Without You, appeared in at least 5 different episodes of Growing Pains between the late 1980s and early 1990s. But rather than playing a single recurring character, he was cast as a different person in each appearance, essentially making him a collection of random background characters and small roles scattered throughout the series. Some of Robin's appearances included playing a boy at a party in an episode called Ben's First Kiss, a student sitting in a classroom during Mom of the Year, and a fake son in an episode titled The New Deal, Part 2, showing the variety of minor roles he took on over the years. One of his more memorable appearances came in a 1991 episode called Ben's Rap Group, where Robin actually got to showcase his musical talents by playing a singer in a hip-hop group that Ben Seaver was trying to manage, which turned out to be somewhat prophetic, given that Robin would go on to have a legitimate music career as an adult. Alan Thicke later mentioned in interviews that if viewers watched closely enough, they could spot his son Robin participating as an extra in classroom scenes or at parties that Mike Seaver was throwing, making it a fun Easter egg for fans who knew to look for the future star hiding in plain sight throughout the show's 7 seasons. Fact 6. Matthew Perry's character died in a gut-wrenching drunk driving episode.
Sometimes a friendly face can do more than any medicine can. Right, Jason?
Right.
Years before Matthew Perry became a household name, playing Chandler Bing on the hit sitcom Friends, he appeared in 3 episodes of Growing Pains during the show's 4th season in 1989 as a character named Sandy, who was Carol Seaver's college-aged boyfriend and honor roll student. The storyline seemed to be heading in a positive direction across the first 2 episodes, with Sandy and Carol developing a serious relationship that fans were rooting for. But then the show took a dramatic and heartbreaking turn in an episode titled Second Chance that aired on April 12th of 1989. In this very special episode, which was designed to send a strong anti-drunk driving message to the show's young audience, Sandy takes Carol out for a night that involves drinking at a bar and attending a college party. And after dropping Carol off at home safely, he gets into a car accident on his way back. When Carol visits Sandy in the hospital, he appears to only be slightly bruised and in relatively good spirits, joking around and telling her that he's been charged with drunk driving but feels grateful to have gotten a second chance at life after surviving the crash. However, after Carol returns home from the hospital visit, her brother Mike receives a devastating phone call informing him that Sandy has died from internal hemorrhaging, which Carol initially refuses to believe because she had just seen him looking perfectly fine. The episode ends with Carol breaking down emotionally while asking what happened to Sandy's second chance, and then the screen displays a sobering statistic showing that 30 people in the United States had been killed or injured in alcohol-related automobile accidents during the time it took to watch that single episode. Fact 5, Brad Pitt played 2 different villainous characters on the show.
I hope she dismounts him before he drives us home.
Next time, whoever has the money pays.
Before Brad Pitt became one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars, he was a struggling young actor, taking whatever television guest roles he could get. And Growing Pains happened to cast him not just once, but twice in 2 completely separate appearances during the show's middle seasons. His first appearance came in November of 1987 during the show's 3rd season in an episode titled Who's Zoomin' Who, where he played a character named Jeff, a new kid who had just moved to the area and lived a few blocks away from the Seaver household. In this episode, Jeff manipulates his way into Carol Seaver's life by pretending to be interested in her romantically. But it turns out he was only using her to get close to her boyfriend Bobby, essentially making him a deceitful character who takes advantage of Carol's feelings for his own purposes. Pitt's second appearance on the show came about a year later in February of 1989 during Season 4 in an episode called Feet of Clay. But this time he played a completely different character named Jonathan Keith, who was a rock star that Ben Seaver idolized and looked up to as a hero. In this storyline, Maggie Seaver manages to arrange for Ben to meet Jonathan backstage at one of his concerts in New York, which should have been an exciting moment for the young fan, but instead Ben ends up witnessing Jonathan cheating on his wife and learns a harsh lesson about not putting celebrities on pedestals. What makes these 2 appearances particularly interesting is that both characters were portrayed in a negative light, with Pitt essentially playing the villain or the disappointment in each episode, which seems like an odd coincidence given that the show could have easily cast him as a more likable character in at least one of his guests. Fact 4. Leonardo DiCaprio was cast to replace Kirk Cameron as the teen heartthrob. By the time Growing Pains entered its 7th and final season in 1991, Kirk Cameron had aged out of his role as the charming teenage troublemaker that had made him a massive teen idol in the mid-1980s. And the show's producers were looking for a way to recapture that same appeal with younger audiences. Their solution was to bring in a then unknown 16-year-old actor named Leonardo DiCaprio to play Luke Brower, a homeless teenager who Mike Seaver discovers living secretly in a closet at the high school where Mike has started working as a substitute teacher. The casting of DiCaprio was a calculated decision by the network and producers, who were hoping that his youthful good looks and acting talent would attract teenage female viewers in much the same way that Cameron had done during the show's earlier seasons when he was at the height of his popularity. DiCaprio joined the cast as a series regular and appeared in 23 episodes throughout the final season, with his character being taken in by the Seaver family after his difficult background was revealed. While the show had already been struggling with declining ratings by this point and was ultimately canceled at the end of that season, DiCaprio's performance earned him a Young Artist Award nomination for Best Young Actor co-starring in a television series, and the role served as an important stepping stone in his career. Interestingly, Jeremy Miller, who played the youngest Seaver brother Ben, later admitted in an interview with Oprah that he felt some resentment about DiCaprio being brought onto the show because Miller had grown up over the course of the series and felt he should have been given more prominent storylines instead of having a new character introduced to fill the teenage heartthrob role. Fact 3. Kirk Cameron's religious conversion led to Julie McCullough's firing.
You better make sure no one scores.
One of the most controversial moments in Growing Pains history occurred in 1990 when actress Julie McCullough, who had been playing Mike Seaver's girlfriend and fiancée, Julie Costello, was abruptly fired from the show under circumstances that created lasting tension among the cast and crew. McCullough had joined the series during its 4th season in 1989 and quickly became a fan favorite, with her character's relationship with Mike progressing so seriously that the season ended with Mike proposing to her, setting up what seemed like it would be a wedding storyline for the following season. However, when season 5 began production, McCullough arrived on set expecting to film the wedding episode, only to be handed a completely rewritten script in which her character suddenly left Mike at the altar and disappeared from the show entirely. The reason for her sudden dismissal, according to multiple reports and McCullough herself, had to do with Kirk Cameron's conversion to evangelical Christianity, which had happened a few years earlier and was beginning to affect his behavior on set in significant ways. Cameron had discovered that McCullough had posed as the Playboy Playmate of the Month back in February of 1986, several years before she was even cast on Growing Pains, and he reportedly felt uncomfortable working alongside someone who had appeared in what he considered adult entertainment. While Cameron has denied directly demanding her firing, multiple sources, including cast members, stated that he made his objections known to producers and even allegedly called the show's executive producers pornographers for employing her. McCullough has spoken openly about losing the role and has been critical of Cameron ever since, stating that she never received an apology from him despite the impact the firing had on her career and the public criticism she endured during the controversy. Fact 2. The cast maintained an 11-pound chewing gum blob.
When you put it that way, it sounds silly, but I had
Officer, it's that alarm. It's driving my husband out of his mind.
A short trip, I'm sure.
One of the strangest traditions to emerge from the Growing Pains set was a somewhat disgusting habit that the cast developed early on in the show's production and maintained throughout its entire 7-season run from 1985 to 1992. Alan Thicke, who played the family patriarch Jason Seaver, later revealed in an interview with ABC that the cast members had created what can only be described as a communal chewing gum collection that grew larger and larger with each passing episode. The way it worked was simple but bizarre. Whenever any of the actors needed to get rid of their chewing gum before filming a scene, instead of throwing it away in a trash can like normal people would do, they would add it to an ever-growing wad of used gum that had been started by someone on the set at some point during the show's early days. Thicke explained that as cast members made their way onto the scene to begin filming, they would stick their used gum onto this continuously expanding blob, which became a sort of unofficial monument to the show's longevity and the close-knit nature of the cast. What started as probably just a few pieces of gum from a handful of actors eventually turned into a massive, sticky collection that accumulated years' worth of chewed gum from every person who worked on the show. By the time Growing Pains wrapped up its final season in 1992, Thicke estimated that this communal gum wad had reached an astounding weight of approximately 11 pounds, which is difficult to even imagine, and when you think about how many individual pieces of gum would need to be stuck together to create something that heavy. The gum blob stands as one of the most peculiar behind-the-scenes artifacts from any television show of that era. Fact 1. Carol was completely recast after test audiences rejected the pilot.
Carol, honey, let's
Dad, let me save you some time. Big Al and I have not been dating.
Yeah, we figured that out.
You what?
figured it out.
When Growing Pains first went into production in 1985, the role of Carol Seaver the brainy middle child of the family, was given to an actress named Elizabeth Ward, who had previously worked alongside Tracy Gold in a 1983 ABC after-school special called The Hand-Me-Down Kid. Ward filmed the entire pilot episode as Carol, completing all her scenes and appearing in what would have been the first introduction of the Seaver family to American audiences. However, before the show could air on television, producers decided to screen the pilot in front of test audiences to gauge their reactions, and the feedback they received about Ward's performance was not what they had hoped for. The test audiences simply didn't connect with her portrayal of Carol, finding that she wasn't quite right for the role that would become such a central part of the show's dynamic. What makes this situation even more interesting is that Tracy Gold had actually auditioned for the part of Carol during the initial casting process, but the producers had passed her over in favor of Ward, meaning Gold had already been rejected once before. After the disappointing test audience results came back, the producers reached out to Gold again and asked if she would be willing to return for another audition, essentially giving her a second chance at the role she had originally wanted. Gold was understandably hesitant at first, telling them that they had already seen her and decided against her, but she ultimately agreed to come back. Her second audition went much better, and the producers made the decision to replace Ward with Gold, which meant they had to reshoot every single one of Carol's scenes from the pilot episode before the show could premiere on ABC, giving viewers the Carol Seaver that would become beloved throughout the show's 7-season run.